Hey friends. Well, I'm out for a walk again today. Felt like a good time. A little break in the rain. It's not quite as cold. So I'm headed down to the lake, which is so visible now. Kind of amazing. An amazing shift, isn't it? From summer when there's so much vegetation. So, moving into February here very quickly, and that means we are very close to Lent beginning. Can you believe that? February 17th, Wednesday, February 17th is Ash Wednesday, and that is the beginning of Lent. I have some Lent bags, meditation bags for everybody with a devotional and some things to help walk us through and prayerfully meditate through the Lenten season together. And we'll give you more information on how to get those and how we'll get them to you. But so right here on this cusp, as we begin, for me, I always think of this as this time where we are now turning with Jesus. We are turning to Jerusalem. We're sort of getting ready to move on that path toward Jerusalem. That's the Lenten journey. And it's a long road. It's a long path down to Jerusalem. And there's a lot to think about and meditate on and be transformed by and to prepare ourselves for as we once again enter into Holy Week and the story, the passion of Jesus, crucifixion, and then the resurrection and what that really means. But before we turn fully in that direction, I want to spend a little bit of time with you on Sundays. We're going to start exploring a little bit of the stories of King David, because I think it's pretty integral to understanding Jesus, right? We know that Jesus' heritage and his linkage to King David, that lineage, is so important, but we don't really spend that much time contemplating why and who King David is and what his story really is. And so Sunday we'll start with, we'll be focused Sunday on David and Goliath, that story. It's not the lectionary text. We're going off lectionary for a bit. But the lectionary text for this Sunday is from the Gospel of Mark. And it's that scene where Jesus goes into Capernaum, right? He's begun his ministry. He's called the disciples, and he's beginning to move around the Sea of Galilee. And he's gone into Capernaum, and he's at a synagogue on the Sabbath, and he's teaching. We might call it preaching, but he gets up and he begins to teach and he begins to speak, and everyone is amazed. They're like, who is this guy? Like, he's not just teaching like the scribes, the scribes that teach the law, and they know the scriptures and they teach them very effectively. He knows more. They're saying he knows more. He's actually speaking with authority beyond what the scribes have. Who is this guy? They are in awe. He's opening something up for them. And then when he finishes, this very strange thing happens. A man back in the crowd in the synagogue And it says he's possessed by a demon. He stands up and he begins to yell, who are you? Have you come to destroy us? He's all out of sorts. And Jesus essentially turns to the man and commands him to be quiet. Demands silence out of him. And the demon is put to rest. And then they are really amazed, because they say, wow, what kind of authority must this man have that he can even silence the demons? That Jesus can silence the demons, can call them out. It's a great story. There's much to think about in there. But what I really want to invite you to think about today is I want to think about what is the demon? Who is that demon? Why is there a demon in the synagogue? So many scholars, biblical scholars, who study Mark will say, well, they suggest that perhaps the demon represents the teachings of the scribes, so that it's not what they mean by that is that the scribes are notorious for adhering to the letter of the law, Torah as law. Like they teach in a way, perhaps, this is some of the suggestions, that has become very oppressive and difficult for people. In our modern setting, in today's setting, we might call that people who are biblical literist, right? Where they take the Bible so literally that it becomes a punishing, harsh, angry tool to control, and there's not much joy in that. When we take it literally, when we read it in a very, very literal way, we're missing the poetry and the beauty and the breath, the spirit that flows through it. We miss the essence. So many biblical scholars will say, well, the demons are anything that becomes oppressive or negative or destructive in our lives. So what's the demon? What is it that Jesus silences that becomes life-giving to all of those who are present? So I've been thinking a lot about, well, what are the demons that I might carry? What are the things that I carry within myself? And I'm inviting you into this thought. Where are your demons? What are the things that you hold on to and carry with you that really become oppressive and obstructive and destructive? I remember a time, I bought my first house many, many years ago in Indianapolis. And in the backyard, there was this giant tree. Big, giant tree. I thought it was so cool. And I loved having that in my backyard. And then off to the side, there was a smaller, just a little tiny tree. It didn't even put off much shade or it was just sort of there. I didn't think much about it. I just saw this big, beautiful tree every day. And one day this neighbor of mine came over and he knocked on the door and he said, that tree, this little tree back here, that's just a junk tree, It's not a very good tree. So how about I take it down for you? You know, I could use the firewood because we have this special camping site that we, place we go to every year. And, I could remove that tree for you. And, it was first time I ever owned a home. I didn't know much about it at all. I didn't take the time to even look at it. I was frankly a little intimidated too. I was standing there alone, pretty young, and I just thought, oh, well, yeah, no, I mean, he seems to know what he's talking about. Yeah, you can just take the tree, I guess. I guess that'd be okay. And that was that, and then I forgot about it, and then I came home several weeks later, and this neighbor was in my backyard with several other people, and they were chopping that tree down. And I remember just standing horrified, just frozen in my kitchen at the window, watching, feeling this incredible pain and remorse that this tree was just being cut down. It just struck me as so awful. And that I had done something, I had allowed it to happen. Maybe that sounds silly to you, but to me, it hit me. It just struck me as I allowed this beautiful living thing to be cut down, because it didn't strike me as beautiful as the big tree next to it. I was horrified, actually. And I carried that with me. So I tucked that down, this sort of guilt and pain over that. And what I have come to understand through the years is that that little bit of guilt and pain that I've carried, because I didn't really take the time to think it through, to offer some forgiveness, to find a way to forgive myself, to sort of maybe even honor that stump that was left. I didn't do anything. I just tucked it away because I was so ashamed that it became a demon. It became one of those things that I held on to and I carried with me. And maybe as small of a thing as it may seem, maybe perhaps to you as I'm telling it, it becomes something that isn't that small. It affects my life and the way I behave in the world. That guilt, because until I was able to recognize, oh, yeah, say, well, I have to find a way to forgive myself. I have to allow that, just acknowledge that I made a mistake in that, and I wish I hadn't done that. And what can I do to reconcile that now? Can I plant a new tree somewhere? Can I be more mindful of ecology? Can I pay more attention? What are the ways? But instead, when I ignored it, I spent a lot of time becoming very, very defensive. I spent a lot of years being so defensive I couldn't talk about ecology. I mean, I cared about it. Don't get me wrong. But I would become so defensive that I couldn't hear and have conversation because of this little demon that I was carrying around inside. This oppressive thing. I wonder, as we are preparing ourselves to turn toward Jerusalem, to move into the wilderness, into the scenes of temptation, as we prepare ourselves to walk through that gate on Palm Sunday morning and to enter Jerusalem, as we ready ourselves to stand at the foot of the cross, I wonder if you might take a little bit of time to identify the demons that you might be carrying within you. That we might Take a minute to name them. Just name them, because there's power in naming them. Because that's the step towards then silencing them. And that we can name them without fear, because we know that Jesus silenced the demon in the man without violence, without anger, but really in a calm and loving way that made plenty of room for all. Anyway, something to think about. What are the little ways in which we hold and develop and carry demons within us? Obstacles. If you don't like the word demon, use the word obstacle. Use the word block. Use the word that helps you get to that understanding. That place where we can let go a little bit so that we can freely move. So that we can truly embrace the road to Jerusalem. The whole journey. Because at the end of that road, on the other side of that cross, standing at the door, or the empty tomb with that stone rolled back, at that moment, the world opens. Resurrection awaits. So let's do the prep work now. Take care. I will see you all on Sunday.